Good day. I, Angelica Aleta, along with my partner Miguel Nassau, conducted a study entitled The Effects of Strength and Plyometric Training on Anterior Shoulder Flexibility, Arm Extension Speed, and Lunging Speed and Recovery in female foil and epee fencers. So essentially, both physical and functional training provides us with a strong foundation to produce athletes who are better, stronger, and faster. All these factors are needed in a competitive athlete. In fencing, this is only half of the spectrum, given that as fencers we need to strategize on the fly, yet only focusing on our minds and leaving our bodies behind leaves athletes with knowledge of what to do, but without the means to do them, which is an issue here in the fencing team. This is because there is little to no strength and conditioning training provided here in the UP fencing team, which brought about the fuel for our study. The purpose of our study is to see the response of both the lunging movement and the recovery to the strength and plyometric training provided. Another is to see the level of efficacy this training provides for its athletes, and last is to delve deeper into the biomechanics of the fencing lunge to discover the methods and its improvement. So for our methods, our subjects are 6 female athletes from the foil and epee events, all of which are active members, and these 6 female athletes were divided into 2 groups, 3 members for the strength training and 3 for the plyometric training. The programs used for our testing and data collection are the accelerometer meter app, which is installed on the phone, Kinovea, which is the motion analysis software, and Microsoft Excel to collect our data as well as to analyze our data. So for our setup, we conducted 3 tests to determine the pre- and post-test scores of our paper. The first is the arm extension speed test using the accelerometer meter application. We had them do 3 separate trials per extension and an on-guard position. This is so that the results aren't affected by the speed of the arm pulling back or recovery, and averaged those scores for pre- and post-testing. Next is the shoulder mobility tested through the functional movement screen. As shown in the picture, the athletes had to reach behind their back and we measured the distance between their fists. This measures their shoulder flexibility, and the reason that we measured the distance in between the spaces between their fists was to see if there's any improvement after giving the training programs. Lastly is the motion analysis setup, analyzed through Kinovea to observe the lunging speed and joint angles affecting the lunge. The jug serves as a scale, which has a diameter of 8.59 centimeters, and we aligned the athletes to lunge along the same axis as the scale, so that we will be able to measure it properly in accordance to that scale. For our intervention, we have 2. Both are customized to fit the fitness and training level of majority of the subjects, as well as the access of equipment that we lack because we don't have weights and we don't have that much space. So here we only used body weight and a low intensity workout to accommodate the lack of experience to conditioning training. So for our measurements, we gathered the following data. The first is the shoulder mobility, second is the arm extension speed, and third is the lunge and recovery time. For our procedure, we conducted the training in 2 weeks, which is equivalent to 4 sessions. And each session had at least 48 hours of rest in between to ensure full recovery. The plyometric training was done after warm-up, while the strength training was done as conditioning post-training. Next up is the results.
The results in this study were based from the scores and values garnered by the subjects from their pre-intervention and post-intervention. These 2 were analyzed to see if there are changes in their performance in the variables we want to study. For shoulder mobility, the results show that there are no significant differences when it comes to the flexibility, whether in plyometric training or in strength training. Rather, the improvement of this certain variable will be addressed in the recommendations in this study. For the arm extension speed, there has been an improvement for both of the plyometric training group and the strength training group. For the plyometric group, there has been a 0.84% increase, while in the strength training group, there has been a 2.03% increase. Lastly, for the lunging speed, those in the strength training program increased, while those who underwent plyometric training decreased. To further discuss, In shoulder mobility or anterior shoulder flexibility, it is evident that there is no significant difference since there is no flexibility exercises present in the two training programs. It is very important in doing a fencing lunge that you are flexible because there are certain factors that you really need them. For example, in fighting, it is a situation in fencing where the opposing players are distanced near each other and requires a different position of the fencing arm, whether be it on the side or above the head. It is very important that your shoulders are flexible enough for you to be able to perform different strikes and arm extension. In arm extension speed, it is evident that there are increase in number in plyometric training and strength training. We saw that this increase is going to happen because of the factor that caused improvement, which is the push-ups present in both of the training programs. It is primarily because the push-up strengthens shoulder muscles, which are vital in the extension of arms. The implication of the increase in speed means that they are able to extend their arms at a faster rate, allowing them the advantage of hitting first while in-game. Lastly, for the lunging and recovery speed, those who went through the strength training program generally experienced an increase in both of their lunging and recovery distances and a decrease in their lunging and recovery time, essentially showing the positive impact that the strength training program has had on their overall fencing movement. Although those who went through the plyometric training program experienced a decrease in their overall movement speed, despite this, their lunging distances increased, yet they sacrificed their lunging time for the distance as it also increased. Their recovery distances decreased, and their recovery times increased, which implies difficulty in recovery or keeping their balance as they recovered forward. This discrepancy in movement affected their overall fencing movement, causing them to have a general decrease in speed. In conclusion, the improvement of an athlete relies on the conditioning and strengthening behind it, in order to supplement the skills they had learned and advance in their sporting endeavors. The results of the training programs were mixed, being that the strength training yielded positive results and the plyometric training yielded negative results. Although these results were also affected by the fencer's lunging forms, making the larger knee angles when lunging provide a slow lunge and a slow recovery, creating an overall slow movement. Despite this, providing either or both of training program would be good for the fencing team, as the team has little to no constant conditioning regimen, given that they are also provided the proper execution of skills along with it. To sum it up, the recommendations of this study are as follows. 1 is to lengthen duration of intervention of at least 8 weeks should be implemented in order for the training programs to take effect. Next is that flexibility training should also be incorporated in their training programs in order to improve flexibility of joints that are vital in fencing. Third is the use of goniometer in related studies in order to accurately measure hip flexibility. And lastly, to increase sample size in order to come up with more significant values.